This is the fateful moment. It's move 47. Fabiano Caruana is a pawn down, but in a drawn position with best play, and he crumbles. Magnus gets even the best players in the world to make these childlike mistakes. How does he do it? We're gonna back up, take it from the top. Watch how he builds the pressure here. It's just masterful. This was a Norway Chess 2025 game. We got the 26 tournament just around the corner, so we have to revisit these classics. Watch this from Magnus. Accuracy off the charts. Even Fabiano can't resist. And of course it starts with a Catalan, named after Magnus's good friend and long-time second, GM Catalan. Now we see this knight developing here. They regularly go through these lines, and Magnus soon springs a surprise. Why would you open the long diagonal for white? Well, we're about to see a6, and if you munch the pawn, you run into this wham bam slam stuff. Challenge the long diagonal. A4 is also a move, as I was indicating there. Many lines, but not played. Magnus goes for the mysterious rook move. It does eyeball the black queen, so we understand it, but you're a clean pawn down now. What's your point here? Magnus shows it. After knight e5, you look dead, but the knight blocks, and here we go. Gambit on the way. No e4. You block your own bishop right now. b3. What a cowboy. Here's the point. After Fabi munches, Magnus is a clean pawn down, but he's got two open files to work with. And look at this c5 square. Magnus really wants to dominate it. This is now the battleground. This explains bishop a3. Let's remove one of those snipers, defending the square. And if you dare go b4, bishop just drops back. And knight d2 to c4 is positional suicide on the black side of things. So in the game, bishop d6 played, saying you capture me, I'll take with the pawn, plug the hole. So Magnus just does this, again going for the c5 square. Fabi fights for it once more. Now e4 from Magnus, piling on the pressure in the centre. And if you drop back with this knight, you run into some e5 business. These ones open too. It doesn't work tactically for black. That's why we get takes here. Rook recaptures. We know that this knight may want to come here, right? So we keep the pressure on the file. Now this knight rotates backwards. Pressure on the pawn. Magnus brings the knight out. This is known in the business as a nay stack. Like a haystack, but with horses. The centre is covered. And b4 is now a big positional threat. You'd kill two pawns with one stone. That's why Fabi fights here. Stops b4 for the time being. Magnus doubles the rooks. And you could play pawn c6. Defend like this. But this poor guy will be crying for the rest of the game. So this is the move that Fabi plays. Excellent. Pawn sacrifice. A pawn's defended. Magnus picks this one up. The material's now back level. Opening success for him. Queen c7's on the board. Going for the loose pawn now. But before you can say, we love you, Magnus, he gains space over there. If pushes, playable, but not the best. This structure actually favours white. It's pretty complicated stuff, but both players have a protected passer. White, however, has the centre. And these two knights look poised for action in a slightly better way than black's. f4 could come at the right moment. This one's struggling for squares. So's this. Let's back it up. Fabi takes. Correct move. We see a pair of rooks go into the blender. Magnus could take one more time, but doesn't. He wants pieces on. Tension. Rook back to the c file here. And queen b2. Prepares to capture that pawn with the lady. Opens the rook here as well. h6. Queen takes. Bishop c6 blockading and protecting the b pawn. Now this queen backs up, making way for the knight. It's such high quality manoeuvring. And apparently knight b8, one of the best moves here. Knight g4 could even be considered, spinning round like this. But Fabi fights for the open file, so natural. Then after knight b4, goes knight e5, looking at protecting that bishop. and also with another idea in mind, but it's not quite the most precise. Magnus now plays pawn f4, roars like a mighty chess lion. This line hits this knight hits the c4 square now. Fabi's seen that this is a pawn sacrifice, which Magnus accepts, but he's saying, I've got enough activity now for the pawn. This is my best chance. But boy, is this now tasty for Magnus. He loves to grind like a grandma deep into these end games here. Rook c8's on the board, and here we go. Magnus builds the Connect 4. Wins himself a spa day with Danny Wrench. What a lucky guy. Wonderful robes they both get. Knight centralizing here, and Magnus plays to undermine it already. If you take, there's a lot of pressure on d5, not the move. So this was played. Loose rook, now defended by moving. Queen a7 hits the pawn. It's also pinned to the king, so no pawn c6. Takes was played by Magnus. Here, with check, is a threat if you try and pick this one up. So fe on the board. Now Magnus takes an entire knight, giving up his wonderful bishop. But look at the position he's secured. A pawn ahead, pressure on the d-file. This is incredibly tough to defend. Fabi starts with the right move. Defends the pawn, covers the c6 square. You know, you don't want it running. King g2. Magnus just starts massaging. Fabi almost falls asleep. He's got wonderful hands, really knows some top techniques, does Magnus Carlsen. Gains tons of space. King's shuffling around. Fabi maintains the blockade. And here's the really key thing. So long as the queen's bouncing here, you're okay. If the pawns don't advance, how does white make progress? Check threatened. Covered. e6 a threat. Blockaded. Rook b1, trying to get a bit frisky down there. Queen f5 keeps Magnus honest. This one covers the c2 square, and now we're at move 47. This is the key moment where Fabi should drop back. Keep the pawns blockaded. It's the way to go. But somehow Magnus gets these top guys to make these childlike blunders deep into the end game. What does Fabi play? Queen takes on h5. That is a shocker. It's up there with his Saturday night disco outfit. He's now losing the game. Why? It's pawn to c ships on the board, and that pawn is running. Magnus knows his endgames, of course. By the way, if you want to learn endgames, not just openings, but endgames as well, use Lotus Chess. It now has an endgame learning feature. I've seen nothing like it anywhere else out there. It's so good for talking you through step by step. Play like Magnus, learn those end games. Everything falls into place off the back of that. Get it, even if just for the end game feature. And it's free to get started. So good. Can't describe it. Love it. Play it most days. Now we see this king step up. Because in many lines there are these pin issues when one of these rooks or queen or something hits the back rank. Black now to play, no white to play. Which pawn push wins the game? Let me get rid of these rook arrows. Only one does. There's only one winning move.
The only winning move.
It's the only move?
The only winning move.
It's the only move?
The only winning move.
It's the only...
Oh my god.
It's pawn e6 because it stops the queen coming to f7. If you start with c7, then there's this. And black brings the queen round and amazingly is probably holding this position. Still tough, but you can start blockading stuff. This is much stronger. The queen can't access the game. If you'd have brought the queen back a move earlier, by the way, still wasn't working. Let's not go down the rabbit hole. You know, instead of king h7, you brought the queen, didn't work. This is what was played. Pawn attacked, defended, beautiful, not too wedded to one plan. Of course, there could be checkmating ideas too. Now we see rook a8, going for the counterplay. This one drops, so that's another pawn lost here. Magnus, what, one ahead? But it feels like two ahead. Rook a3 prepares to crash through. but a classy finish. Move 52. Queen e4 from Magnus. And you can't take with the queen. It's pinned. And if you take with the rook, you just sidestep and there's nothing. The pawns are both running. Unstoppable. You can try and give up a rook and land some checks and stuff, but none of it works. The pawns are clearly running one way or another. Quick sample. There she goes. It's all over. Let's run back here. Final position. Unreal scenes from Magnus. He won the tournament. And do have a look at the video on screen in case you missed the game I covered yesterday. Magnus versus Gukesh. Same tournament. The most phenomenal accuracy we've seen in a long time. What a game. Cheers.